Hello everyone, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Thank you so much, Anuj Jindal, for joining us today. Anuj is, taking care of instant discharge at Medi Assist right now. That's the new thing that you're leading, which will help patient discharge very quickly from the hospital without having to wait, the 4 to 6 hours, very bad, impatient sort of time, and you have devised a way to totally avoid it. And you've done a lot of work in that segment with your own startup called Sure Claim, and which is now part of Medi Assist. And you've done a bunch of other things in past, including being a podcaster. Great to be talking to you, Anuj, today. Hi everyone. My name is Ujjwal Trivedi. I'm a senior director of products at Move and Sync, which is world's largest office commute platform. And I have Anuj Jindal with me today. And I've given a very quick little introduction, but over to Anuj for his introduction. Anuj? Why don't you talk about who you are and what you do, other than the interesting stuff that I've talked about, which includes being an entrepreneur, heading one of the products, being a podcaster, and a prolific angel investor. Tell us more.
Hi everyone. I think I'm a dog parent. That's the best introduction I would like to have. Apart from, I think I do agree with whatever Ujjwal said that I do. I have nothing to disagree, but I think I've been into healthcare for over a decade now, and I tried multiple things, which includes running a hospital, being in a health tech company, building an insurtech, now working with one of the largest claim processing company in the country on the health insurance side. So, very diverse experience in terms of the format, but I think I've been largely married to healthcare in India, trying to solve the problem in its diversity. And as you mentioned, there is this very hard problem of making sure that patients get some certainty at the time of their cashless discharge. That's something that we're solving right now. Just to add, I think to the overall profile that you mentioned, uh, largely, I've been on the B2C side. That's something that I understand. And within that, how do we use technology to solve problems at scale has been an area of focus for me all this time. And I've been lucky to sort of work with very interesting people. Today is Teachers' Day. And I would say, we got fantastic teachers all through this journey who taught us, how to be good at whatever we do. That's pretty much from my side.
All right, yeah, thanks for pointing it out. Happy Teachers Day, everyone. And so now that you've mentioned this about teachers, what is it that, like, one learning that you could share with us today that kind of you got early in your childhood and that has stayed and helped you a lot? Maybe coming from a teacher or something that you might have sort of observed or self-learned.
Probably when we all come from the middle class families, and so one thing that is sort of ingrained to us by everybody, whether it is parents, relatives, teachers, people you meet on the street, is do hard work. And I think over a period of time that changed to say do impactful work, make it count, right? And so I think that's something stayed, and that's like every middle class person in this country would say the same. That's one learning that all of us get right from the beginning of our life.
Right, right. So, you mentioned something that you married to one of the hardest problems. So everyone marries a problem. Um, you know, however you look at it. And people will get this and laugh later. But what made you choose healthcare? Did healthcare choose you, or you chose healthcare? And what and we have discussed this earlier, that healthcare in India is definitely broken. However, world over, people think that it is broken in at different level. But what made you choose healthcare, and what makes you excited about this field?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question. Uh, so I think healthcare choosing me was serendipity, but I choosing healthcare was a sort of a conscious call. I am an engineer by graduation. I studied mechanical engineering, but I was a very bad engineer. And then I worked in IT with TCS. Within that, I worked in open source, and I've also been on the proprietary side working as an SAP app developer. And then, like all young engineers do, what next to do? We can't do MTech, chalo, let's do BTech. Sorry, let's do MBA. So then I went on to do an MBA. And all this while I kept thinking that I keep on changing my focus area. So whether it is what I want to do in engineering, and then later on in TCS, and then later on in my MBA, I felt that I've been confused. That was my own self-appraisal. And therefore, I felt that I need to find a place where I can settle down. And luckily for me, as part of my campus placement, I was recruited by Manipal Education and Medical Group, which runs, Manipal University as well as Manipal Hospitals chain. And as luck would have it, that's the serendipity part of healthcare choosing me, where I landed up in one of the group hospital as a trainee, and then sort of I supposed to be on the healthcare side. But then, again, going back to the reference on Teachers' Day, I was lucky to come across some very fabulous colleagues as well as seniors who held my finger and who started my journey into healthcare. And of course, I was a very curious kid. I still continue to be a curious person, and so I kept on asking questions. And they were patient with me. They kept on answering, and I think then that's where I felt that this is the place where I can dig my heels. I also witnessed at that time that a lot of health tech was happening. Startups are coming in, and I also felt as a young management professional that an industry which is so broken requires talent and requires a long-term view. And I think that's how I sort of decided to stay back in healthcare. But like I said, you need a little bit of flavor in your career, and so I kept on changing formats within healthcare by working, like initially running a hospital operation, then in fact building a hospital, then becoming a hospital consultant, traveling the length and breadth of this country, then working in health techs like Practo, and then starting a health insurance focused insurtech on the claim side, and then here solving for the checkout journey for a customer. So yeah, that's the marriage part of healthcare.
Why don't you tell us a little more about Medi Assist and about the specific product that you are working on?
Yeah. So if you sort of look at the overall health insurance ecosystem in the country, you have health insurers who are the manufacturers of health plans, right? So they create the health plans, and those then need to be distributed. So that's where you have agents, brokers, and websites like Policy Bazaar, etc. Even banks sell health insurance, right? So these are distribution leg of this product that is manufactured by insurance companies, and then there is a servicing leg, which could be owned by insurers or it could be outsourced to specialized players. So Medi Assist happens to be one of the specialized players. The category is called as third-party administrators. The word third party basically means that these are not the owned companies, these are standalone third parties. And administration means that they really do not own the product, but they administer the product. That means once the product has been issued and bought by customer, distribution has done its job. After that, the whole administration of benefits has to be done by this third party, and so the short form is TPA. So Medi Assist happens to be India's largest benefits administrator. Couple of stats there. So almost 1 in 5 health claims in this country is processed by Medi Assist. We do roughly about 900,000 crore worth of cashless claims processing a month. And we have, over the last couple of years, acquired some of our competitors, giving us a lot of organic and inorganic growth in the segment. In the group health segment, which is employer-employee health insurance space, we are the most dominant player in the market with more than 50% market share. And we, I think, potentially have the largest cashless network, or the network of hospitals where we have the capacity to provide cashless facility, which spans to about 27,000 odd hospitals in this country, which is pretty large. We work with practically all insurers in the country, and
About the discharge thing that you're working on, tell us more about that.
Okay. So coming to that, so like I mentioned, I've been a B2C guy most part of my career, and Medi Assist as a company, it has two parts. One is the B2B side facing business, and then there's a B2C side facing services. So on the B2B side, we sort of work with insurers, corporates, brokers, etc. But on the B2C side, it's all the sum total of consumers who have got health policy and they need to make a claim, right? And health claims are of two types. One is cashless, another one is reimbursement. So just to sort of give you a little bit of insight into my profile, I head the hospital network for the company, and as well as I look after this business vertical on the B2C side, within which one of the products that we have is instant cashless discharge. Recently, we renamed it to Express Checkout because we wanted to emphasize on the fact that there is a certain acceleration in how you move out of the hospital, which I think the name was not really conveying. So the Express really adds that feeling of speed to what we do in this. Now let me sort of talk about the problem statement. Most people, in fact, everybody who goes to a hospital, do not really enjoy going to a hospital. It's not the best place you would like to spend your time at. But it's destiny that sort of takes you there because somebody is sick, somebody is having some health troubles, and so when you are at a hospital, as we say, there's a lot of urgency. I need to go to the hospital. I need to get admitted ASAP. The treatment has to start right now. But then once the treatment is over, again, like I said, right, it's not a desirable place. I will not use the word unpleasant, but it's not a desirable place for people to stay. And so you just want to get out of the place, right? And in many ways, hospital indicate sort of a bad personal experience because you're going through health issue and the family is stressed, etc., etc. And so people just want to get out ASAP.
Right.
And therein lies this entire predicament of insurance, because when people have insurance, then from a claims perspective, there is something called as claims adjudication. That means we need to figure out whether this claim is genuine or not, and whatever hospital is billing, is it right amount or not? And then within the bill, we need to identify what is the liability, what is the amount that the insurance is supposed to pay, and what is the amount the patient has to pay, right? And
takes a lot of time. It takes about 4 to 6 hours before you can get a discharge.
So I would not even put the time to 4 to 6 hours because the diversity is huge. Like if I talk about Medi Assist alone, we do about 5,000 odd cashless discharges on a daily run rate basis, which is a massive number. And so all of these claims can come concurrently because doctors are on the round in the morning and they are meeting patients and they're telling the whole patient base in the day that aap theek lag rahe ho, you can go home. And then suddenly all of these people line up, queue up, right, to for their discharge. But like I mentioned, all of these need to be processed, they need to be adjudicated, they need to be checked thoroughly because we need to find out whose liability is what. But the issue for a patient is that till the adjudication is complete, till we decide who has to pay what, the patient has to wait for that that result to come, that approval to come.
Right.
Now, that is a sort of a variable exercise, because for some people it can come in 15 minutes, for some people it can take, like you mentioned, 4-6 hours, it could be 2 hours. But I think the time is not really the challenge here. The real challenge is of uncertainty. Like you can't really plan your day. And my research on the ground suggests that it's less of a problem with the patient, it's more with the caregivers, because they need to plan their day. Like
Correct.
they are in the hospital in the morning, doctor comes on the round, 10 a.m. says the patient is fit to go home, and you have the whole day in front of you. So you want to finish off something at office, or you want to take the patient home so that they can rest. Some people have to travel out of the city, right? Because we know that healthcare is concentrated majorly in metro, so people need to travel cities. So with all of that, I think the uncertainty of the claim adjudication is something that people really, freak out with, and that sort of adds a layer of anxiety more than the time. It's that they can't plan their day. I think that's the key issue.
Right.
And coming to the product side, I think when we were looking at this problem statement, so there were two ways to look at it, and I think that's a lesson on the product side that I would want people to have. So the approach is either you make the process fast, which means you have to fix whatever is already broken, or you
Right.
find a way to skip what is broken and build a system which is running in parallel, right? So we took the later approach. I'm saying we tried in the first approach as well. What if we could make it faster? Is there a hack to it? But then we realized, our thesis also was not that we could make it fast, because then it could have been solved many years ahead. So we built something which is sort of to skip, and which is a lot of prediction and using of data and building user cohorts, etc. comes into picture, which is largely what this product is all about. Creatively using data, creatively using the relationship that we have with this 27,000 odd hospitals that were mentioned. How do we leverage all of that to deliver a certain experience to the customer? And the product really means a zero wait time discharge. So we're not really at Zepto here, giving a 10 minutes delivery promise. It's a zero wait time discharge that we sort of promise to customer.
Excellent. I think that is going to be a wonderful, significant change that the world is going to see. When is it expected? Like, when can people start experiencing it?
Yeah. So like I mentioned, it's a very interesting as well as a very hard problem to solve. Interesting because as you start discovering it, and I'm a very conventional person. I like to go on the ground, catch up with people, understand what's going around, rather than sitting in a room and dreaming what's the problem statement. So it's interesting because there are so many stakeholders involved. There's not just the patient, but also insurer on one side, because they don't want you to be blindly passing the claims. So there has to be some logic to how you allow people to get out. But there's also hospital, which is a very important stakeholder, because they also need assurance on the payment that the patient has to make to them, right?
Correct.
So how do we give assurance to everyone? I think is the interesting part. Hard because of the diversity, because look at the number of treatments, look at the number of policies, and everyone have their own nuances. And even if I look into data, that's the hardest part. How do you customize a prediction for a particular person? So that I think is the harder part. So now to sort of answer your question on when it is expected, we have through our pilots sort of enabled zero wait time discharge for about 10,000 odd patients till date, and that has taken us almost 5-6 iterations of the product. And I don't work for a funded startup as of now. It's a very large traditional sort of business. Of course, it's tech business, but still it's a dhanda, right? It's not your cash guzzling, cash burning sort of a business. So we need to be prudent in how we sort of pick up certain innovations. And this is something that I tell my team, that had I been running a funded startup, the first iteration when I cracked this logic, I would have just gone after this and burned tons of money to sort of deliver that experience. But now, because that's the guardrail I have, that I need to be smart about how I spend my money. Every time we solve the problem in a certain method, we ask this question: is it something that is going to scale? Is it something that is going to scale without breaking the bank? And is it something which is going to scale by delivering a seamless experience to the customer? Because sometimes you solve by creating still a lot more complexity for the customer. and our initial iterations or methods have been complex. Now, so I take a lot of inspiration from Edison saying that, before I became successful, I found a lot of methods that did not work. And I think that we have 5, 6 methods that do not work, right? So that's our mode. That's how we are ahead of the competition who's trying to solve this problem. But today, just to sort of simplify, we tell the customer, this is what you need to pay, and this is sort of backed by data. And so you pay this money as a deposit to the hospital, and you can simply walk out, right? You don't need to wait for the claim approval to come. Of course, that is happening in parallel. And like that's with all data problems, sometimes the data is wrong. Sometimes the real world happens. That means somebody goofed up. So maybe hospital did not accurately share the information. There is something on the processing side. There's some rules which were not configured properly. So maybe prediction is wrong. Maybe approval is wrong. But those are like edge cases. But most of the time, we have a great experience. So like I mentioned, some 10,000 odd discharges. It's been almost a 9-month journey for us. There was a 5-month period where we sort of doubled our traction month on month, where we sort of hit a ceiling of about 2,000 discharges in a month. But then, we sort of regulated after that to make sure that we find newer methods, newer iterations to solve this problem in a more, should I say, seamless manner as well as more efficient manner, because those are slightly more expensive methods of solving it.
Got it. Super cool. Thank you so much, Anuj, for sharing those amazing pieces of insight today about how you are and what you are fixing in healthcare and how you are fixing it. But thank you so much for spending time with us today in the Startup Hour in Startup September, organized by Headstart. And thank you so much, Headstart, for giving us this opportunity.